when that's something like that happens with coaches, you probably talk to the kids before the end of spring. I mean, is it just frustrating, disappointing when something like that happens with your players?
Well, it's no different than any of us with our own children. I mean, obviously, I think the thing in any circumstance like that is, let's find out the details of it before you really, before you jump to any kind of conclusions. And I think obviously that's what Coach Malzahn will do, and not just with your football players, but even as a dad someday, hey, let's find out the real story. And so I'm sure that's what we'll do, and I'm sure Coach will address it at the appropriate time.
What was your takeaway, with the running backs from spring, and the spring game specifically?
Really, I think we've got a chance to have an excellent group. Obviously, Javon Robinson really had a nice spring. I think he kind of elevated himself, and going into fall camp, he's in a good position. One of the things we did is we looked at Rock Thomas both as a receiver and a running back, and I thought he had a good spring, particularly asking him to do some things that he hadn't done before in the slot position. And so when you look at Rock, you're looking at a player that led our team last year in yards per carry and led our team in yards per catch. So he's someone that obviously we can get some explosive plays from. Kerryon Johnson did not go through spring or much. There toward the end, he was able to do just a little bit, but I think he did run his 40s the other day when we tested our players, and KJ ran really well. So I think he'll have a good summer to train. Probably the biggest pleasant surprise for me was the two fullbacks that played tailback. I mean, Cam Petway and Chandler Cox were both really good, and I really didn't know that they would be as explosive as they were. I mean, you saw both of them in the spring game have two long runs. In fact, I think both of those runs were longer than any run we had last year. So they both showed the ability that they can play both positions and not, you worry about it a little bit mentally, but they were able to handle that. And then Malik Miller was one of our midterm guys, and he did a nice job as well. So I think we've got a group there that can be one of the strengths of our team.
How much has the high school, college level approach changed with fullbacks? Because it seems, at least in your guys' case, we've had to develop running backs into fullbacks these last couple of years. It used to be sometimes you get a guy, you just knew he was a fullback.
Right.
How has that changed things for you and everybody else on the staff?
Really, you're exactly right. Obviously, Jay Prosh was the model, and we got him as a transfer player. But that's something it's becoming more and more difficult to find that player in high school, because you're seeing so many more spread offenses and you don't see the true fullback. And so we want to get somebody that can obviously do the things that we ask of our running backs in terms of carrying the ball and catching the ball out of the backfield, but you don't get a chance maybe to evaluate as many fullbacks as you once did, because the offensives have changed.
So do you have to sit there when you look at a guy and just project? Like if we add
you do.
weight to him and do some things?
You do, and really with both Chandler and with Cam, when we recruited them, we felt like if they got maybe too big, that they had the ability and the toughness and the physicalness that you want to possibly play some fullback. And I think both of those kids have a chance to be outstanding. I think they can both be as good as there are in our league.
Do you think you'll see them more involved? I mean, we saw in the spring, but sometimes it doesn't mean anything. But
I think we will, no question about it. I mean, I think they can really do things for us offensively with the ball in their hands that can help us win.
With Javon, he envisions himself as a workhorse. What is a workhorse back now? Do you envision a guy getting 25 carries a game? I mean, Derrick Henry was kind of an outlier. I mean,
sure.
In the SEC, there haven't been very many backs that have averaged around.
Obviously, with Coach Malzahn, he's had a tendency to ride that one horse, and we did it a lot early in the season with Peyton. And he kind of got dinged up, and then Javon in the bowl game, and late in the season he got a few more carries. We obviously did it with Cameron Artis-Payne, we did it with Trey Mason, so that has kind of been the tendency. At the same time, over the course of Coach's career, at Arkansas he had Felix Jones and Darren McFadden at the same time, and they were both 1,000-yard rushers. So I think that's kind of a storyline that kind of gets played out year by year, but because of Javon's physicalness and the size that he is and the body type that he is, I think he's a guy on our team that could do that. Whereas someone maybe like KJ, I don't know that KJ could last with 30 carries over a course of a 3 or 4 week period. I just don't know that his body could handle that. So it'll be interesting to see how it all plays out, but I think Javon's one that can handle it.
How much is missing the spring hurt carry on? Just as far as not getting reps, things like that.
I don't know that it hurt him on the field maybe as much as it hurt him in the weight room. I mean, he's a kid that really needs, to get in that weight room, because he's always been someone that's gone from football to basketball, and then he didn't play basketball his last year in high school because of a shoulder injury, and then he didn't get the off-season work there. So I don't know if missing the field time hurts him as much as missing the weight room time, because we would like him to become a more physical and a more developed player that could take those 20-25 carries a game if he had to.
How much was he able to do late in the spring?
He was not able to do a whole lot. I mean, late in the spring he was able to do a little of the individual work, some pass routes, things of that nature, but as far as actual team reps, he did not do anything.
Yeah, Malzahn had that comment recently about being a CEO, I guess, last season and less of a football coach. Have you seen any kind of change in him?
Coach has always been very involved, so and he should be. I mean, he's a great offensive coach, a great offensive play caller, and so it's probably that's probably more applicable to the fall than maybe the spring, but he's obviously a great offensive coach, and I think those changes you'll see more in the fall than you did in the spring.
You have so many running backs at this point and experienced ones. Can Malik Miller play this upcoming season?
Good question. Yes, he can. One thing that I think is really important is let's don't waste a year on people. Even though we left early, Peyton Barber, I thought we did the right thing by redshirting Peyton, because he wasn't going to play before Corey, he wasn't going to play before Cap, he wasn't going to play before Trey, and so I think the thing that you want to do is, if they're going to play on special teams, if they're going to have some snaps on offense, then absolutely you play them. If they can help you win in any way, you play them. But let's always take the kid's best interest at heart, and if it's not, nothing's wrong with redshirting. I think redshirting's a good thing, and sometimes people perceive it as not, but it's a great thing.
You had that conversation with him?
A little bit, but our approach right now with him is, hey, you're getting ready to play, because things happen. People get hurt. Even last year, I mean, it's the middle of the second quarter in the opener, and we've lost our first 2 tailbacks. You lost Javon and you lost Brock to injuries, and really that's how Peyton got to play.
Gus said the other day on the Auburn's website that he feels like the best years for Auburn are these next 3 to 4 years. You're obviously heavily involved with recruiting.
Right.
Do you believe in that, and how come?
Well, I
and
think.
Why?
Well, yes, and I think if you look at the makeup of our team, I mean, you just take a position like the defensive line. I mean, our defensive line is as strong a unit, both from the senior group to the incoming freshman group, that there may be in our league. I mean, when you take the receiving core that we have coming in, I think those are some really elite players that we have coming in. So you can look at just different position groups, and I think they're as good, if not better, than at any time since we've been here. So I agree with Coach very much there. The big thing to me is, in this league, you've got to win close games. I mean, and the difference in us winning 7 games and us winning 11 games last year was we lost some close games. I mean, there's 4 or 5 games that are 1 score or less, and somehow we've got to make those plays to win the games.
You've seen a lot of quarterbacks over your years, and there's that old saying that if you have 2 quarterbacks, you have none. And
right.
Auburn's got 3 right now that Gus believes he's got strong competition in. What do you see from those guys, just yourself, as you saw it every day, and what do you think we're going to see in August when they get canned?
I think you're seeing a really talented player in John Franklin that just doesn't have the experience in the offense that the other 2. I think with Sean and with Jeremy, you're seeing players that are continuing to improve and get better. You know, I think rule number one of football is applicable to that position as much as any, and that's just don't beat yourselves. You know, the thing that we can't have out of that position, the thing that you can't have out of the running back position is the turnovers, the interceptions, the fumbles, the things of that nature. So I saw 3 players getting better, and I agree with Coach Malzahn and Coach Lashley that, hey, we should have great competition through the summer and the first part of 2-a-days, and then by that time the cream tends to rise to the top, and I think that's what will happen again.
You mentioned Peyton Barber. Didn't go in the draft this weekend, but signed. I mean, do you think there's a benefit to having the discussion of allowing players that forgo eligibility to come back? I mean, him and Avery Young both went through that this weekend.
Yeah, you know,
I mean, did you have any conversations with him, or I mean, what were you kind of?
Obviously, we did talk about it, and Peyton's situation might be a little different than most, but you know, when and I'm not exactly sure on the statistics, but you know, you're talking about 50% of the players that declared early didn't get drafted, and you know, I know that. I mean, when you declare early, I think you do it with the idea that you're going to get drafted, or you're either in trouble, you know, in terms of academically, and obviously neither one of them were that. But, you know, the one thing that, whether it's Auburn or whether it's the NFL, the best players are going to play. And so even though Peyton Barber didn't get drafted, I have no doubt at all that he's going to have a great chance to make the Buccaneers team, just like Corey Grant did a year ago. I mean, I thought, man, Corey Grant's going to get drafted. He's got such great speed. Every time he touches the ball, he gets 10 yards, and he didn't get drafted. And then, of course, he made the team. So I think the same thing will happen with Peyton. But that is a topic that I think needs to continue to be addressed.
How do you feel about the satellite camp ban being lifted, and have you guys figured out where you're going to be holding the camps and everything?
We have talked about it. Obviously, our footprint will be in the southeast. I think you're looking at Florida and Georgia, obviously. Hey, we're going to do camps, whether it's at Auburn or whether it's in Florida somewhere. So that's great.
What do you think?
No big deal.
I'm sorry.
Here's one thing I will say about satellite camps, and I may get myself in trouble for this. for people that want to come to Alabama and have a camp, I think it's great because they're helping the quality of football in the state of Alabama, and no one is coming to this state and getting a player from Auburn or Alabama. Okay, that's not going to happen. And so, hey, I'm for it. If they want to come to our state and have it, and hey, that's going to help the quality of high school football.
What do you think about that dynamic of being at these camps and you're coaching alongside rival coaches, and you're both looking at the same type of guys?
You know, that'll be interesting to see how all that plays out. You know, and again, we're talking about something that I don't know the complete how it's all going to work out, but the way that we're approaching it, I don't know that we would be with someone that we're actually recruiting against a great deal. I mean, I don't see us. I don't see Auburn and Clemson going to the same camp location.
Yeah.
I can see us maybe teaming up with a Sun Belt school or someone like that you know, maybe you don't recruit against a whole lot.
Have you guys had discussions about going north at all and trying to do something like that, or do you want to just stay kind of in your regional footprint?
I think we want to stay in our regional footprint, not just for camps, but for recruiting. I mean, when you talk Alabama, Georgia, and Florida, that's where we're going to make our hay, and that'll always be where we make our hay. And so I don't see a big need to go out west or up north or something like that.
How many running backs do you want to sign in the next class?
Well, in the upcoming class, we'll sign at least 2, and possibly one that could be a, quote, athlete, someone that could play multiple positions. So we're going to sign at least 2 running backs in that class.
You kind of touched on it before about Rock spending some time in the slot this spring. Obviously, a real natural pass catcher and guy who can make explosive plays. How valuable do you think he could be in that receiving role come fall?
You know, every time we were able to get the ball to Rock in space last year, he made good things happen. So he is really fast. I don't know if y'all have gotten our 40 times yet. I think some have probably tweeted them and things of that nature, but he timed out really good, and when he's got the ball in space, he's electric, you know, much like a Corey Grant was, much like Orlando McCaleb was. And so, you know, we've got to do a good job of trying to get him the ball on the perimeter any way that we can, and at the same time, not be afraid to give him the ball between the tackles because he's capable of, splitting defense and making big plays for us.
Is that slot role something he kind of embraced?
He did. Rock Thomas has had a wonderful attitude about wherever we've played him, wherever he's been. He's had a great attitude, and I thought he had a terrific offseason and a great spring.
How close to reality are those 40 times? Because those would be the fastest ever.
Yeah, I tell you what, good question. I asked the same question. So sometimes, here's what they did. I think here's the way it was explained to me. They had 4 watches on them. They took the top time and the bottom time out, and then watch 2 and watch 3 were averaged. And so,
Okay, so it was all hand time.
well, no. Then at the same time, they had some
They said
electronic
some laser
times.
time.
Yeah, they had electronic time. They had more watches on them than we got on our wrist right now. So that may be a good Coach Russell question, but that's how it was explained.
It
to me.
just seems faulty to me to
Yeah.
see a lot of 4.18s. If I ran it, it seems like I'd run like a 4.6. That ain't happening.
How close is the race between Javon and Rock, and when do you kind of have a timetable for like when you would want to name a starter, if at all, at this point?
I would think we would name it in one thing that you always want to do as a coach is we need to make sure that they have the right maturity through the summer
Right.
and the right work ethic through the summer. So sometimes I think when coaches wait to name starters, they want to make sure that, hey, this kid can handle, what role we're fixing to give to him. And so I don't think those roles will be defined till a couple of weeks before the Clemson game. But
Pretty close then between those two guys.
I mean, there's one that's probably a little above the other right now, but I mean, it is what it is.
You want to tell us?
Y'all can.
I think we all.
Well, I mean, I thought
You already
said it
Javon
earlier.
really
Well,
kind
one-
of separated himself, so that
There you go. That's
kind of
good.
seems
One
to-
player runs between the lines a lot more than the other.
Yeah.
To read
The
it that way.
tackles, I guess I should say, the lines.
So do you give a speech tonight then? Is that what your role is tonight?
I am. Yeah.
What's your message of the
There's going to be a lot of Q&As today, and these are functions where it gives you a great chance to just mingle with the Auburn family, and we'll talk about our new coaches, and we'll talk about the newcomers and the recruits and the depth chart and the all those kinds of things, and it's always just wonderful to be with the Auburn family. I hit the jackpot tonight because Albie's here, and so when Albie's here, that's always good too.
Makes your job easier.
That's
Do
exactly
fans want to know about the quarterback situation as much as we do, or do they have another more pressing concern?
Say that again.
Do fans want to know about the quarterback situation as much as we do, or do they have other concerns?
I think it probably depends on the crowd that you're in, and y'all probably have a better read on the fan than we do. I mean, we're kind of, as my wife says, we're in the submarine, and so, this is really one of the few times we get a chance to talk to you. It's really one of the few times that we get a chance, to really be amongst the people. So it's something that I enjoy a great deal and look forward to doing each year.
Thank you for